Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Whole Home Show. I'm Tony Joe, your host here every week, bringing you tips, education, and updates on home-related matters. Whether you're in the real estate market or if you're looking for decorating or improvement ideas for your home, this is the place to be. Our show comes to you with the support of our show partners, Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group, JP Sellers, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance, operating as Island Savings Insurance, the Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs, and Shoreline Inspections with Reese Jacob and Monica Gass. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give us, the Whole Home Show team members, a call. We would love to hear from you. Thanks to you, our loyal listeners, I've discovered that you love hearing stories from realtors across the country. In past, we've illustrated that this business isn't exactly what you see on TV. It's not nearly as glamorous and sometimes can be downright spooky. Today is one of several episodes I've compiled speaking with my colleagues across Canada. Sometimes we just all need a good laugh. So let's get right into our first story. So now we're making our way over to Smiths Falls, Ontario with Pauline Aunger. Pauline, thanks for joining us.
I'm pleased to.
Yeah, of course.
Real estate stories.
Real estate stories. Oh my goodness, we need some lighthearted fun. That's always enjoyable, right? Yeah, Pauline and I go a ways back. Pauline, we have the privilege of having you on the show because you are not only past president of the Ontario Real Estate Association, you are also the president of the Canadian Real Estate Association in 2015.
I know in every category.
Every category. So you've checked all the boxes off. I've had the privilege of serving on a committee with you and going to conferences and all that kind of stuff. You are a wealth of knowledge because you've been around for a while. I don't want to do the math, but you've been licensed.
I was 2.
You were 2 when you started, 43
yes.
years ago, right?
43 years ago.
43 years. So you see some changes in real estate.
I have been through all the ups and the downs and everything in between.
My goodness. Okay. And you've got lots of stories. There's one in particular, and if you think of more, let us know. But there's one in particular that you told us when we were looking for stories. Let's go. Tell us.
Well, it's interesting too, because until people started getting comfortable with cremated remains,
this is where we're going. Okay.
Our new topic. So yeah. I had this lovely older Victorian house listed. So thinking stone cellar. And a lovely elderly woman lived in it, and I sold it and she moved, and she called me about 3 days after the move and said, Pauline, do you think I could go back and visit the people who bought my house?
Oh.
And always leery of why somebody wants to return to their house. I said, well, can I ask why you want to see them? She said, well, I forgot Fred. I said, who's Fred? Yeah. She said, it's my husband. She said, I had him in an urn and I put him in the basement and I totally forgot to bring him with me. Ooh. So my very first thing was, oh my goodness, I have to phone these people and make sure they didn't throw out some urn in the basement. Yeah. So called the new owners. I said, by the way, have you had a chance to do any work in the basement? Have you been cleaning it out? They said, oh gosh, no, Pauline, we're so busy with the move. I said, well, the owner needs to return and pick up Fred, her husband, who's in an urn in your basement. And they were like, I think the shock left them enough that they kind of went, oh. And so anyway, off she went and Fred got to go to his new home. But I said, over the years, we've had that happen where, I've been showing a property and the woman comes up and she's crying and she says, Pauline, you keep walking on my husband.
What?
I spread ashes on the lawn, and every time you show the house, you're walking on him. And so I think, we forget that as much as it's sometimes not appropriate to be spreading people, people do stick them in interesting places. But I have probably the most unique cremation story.
Yeah.
So I had a piece of lovely waterfront vacant land, sell a lot of waterfront. And in the middle of the offer, elderly couple, she called me and she said, Pauline, we can't sell the land. My son has just passed away suddenly, and we want to spread his ashes in the lake. And the closing date would be very quick on this land, and so we just can't do it. He lives far away. I said, well, we could always put a clause in the offer that you get access to the property for 1 day in July, a day that agrees with the new owners, but we'll tell the owners why you want access to walk into the lake. And the owners agreed, and all went well. And that July, they put their son in the lake. And so about a month went by after that, and I got a call from the elderly woman, and she said, Pauline, my husband has just passed away. Could we have another day?
Oh.
And I said, well, let me check. And the people said, oh yeah, that would be fine. And so about 6 months later, she passed away. So I had to call them one more time and said, okay, we just need one more if we could get this all. So I say that it is the most unique situations when you're dealing with people and cremated remains and what they do with them in real estate.
Now, mind you, I think one of the key things is the fact that when you called, you let them know exactly what the reason is. It would be wrong just to say, can we have access, and not tell them why, right?
No, it would be, and it's interesting because there are people who would have said absolutely not, and people would go, well, you know, it's like the house I sold, and the people who sold the house called me and said, Pauline, we wondered when we can put the plaque on the house. I said, the plaque? I said, well, I spread my husband's ashes in the backyard, and we'd like to put a little plaque about his death on the house. And I said, no, I don't think that's a real
on a house they no longer own. Yes. Well, and again, you know, we must be respectful of these things, right? And wow.
You know, we all, you know, I think it's the fact that, you know, some people are very comfortable with the whole topic, and other people find it very difficult. So
I guess the main thing is it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So
it does.
As a consumer, if this is important to you, have ask your realtor to ask the question. Just understand it may be no, right?
Yeah. And it brings up the question, you know, do people ever ask if somebody, you know, lots of people bury their pets in the backyard, but we never really focus on, is Fred in the backyard?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the things that we got to do. And again, you have probably seen so much stuff in your years in real estate. Now, mind you, Smiths Falls, which if memory serves, is kind of west of Ottawa, right? What, southwest?
Think of south. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's
outside. We're the marijuana capital of Canada.
Okay, I was going to get to that because the claim to fame was the Heinz factory, right? Hershey. Okay, I'm sorry, the chocolate factory.
This was the home of Hershey Chocolate of Canada. Yeah,
and it is now the home of legalized cannabis.
Yeah, Canopy Growth, which sells under the name of Tweed, is here in Smiths Falls.
Amazing. What kind of plant is that behind you there? Oh, never mind. I thought that was.
Yeah. But we like to say our other real claim to fame is the LPGA champion Brooke Henderson. Okay. So this is Brooke's home. This is her home courses in Smiths Falls. Yeah. And this is where she grew up and originally played from the time she was very little. So that's our other claim to fame. We have a couple of them. Marijuana.
Okay, great. And the other thing too, I mean, I know that you've always been very active in your community. I know that you did the hike up, you did the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation walk back in it was December, right?
Yeah, the end of 1st of December. Yeah,
across the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
Kilometers across the Sahara. Yeah, to raise for women's shelters. Yeah.
Well, by the way, you never asked me to donate. All of our other Royal LePage pals did. I would happily do that whenever you
inundated by them. So the next time you're on my list.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. So many great stories, and I'm sure we're going to get you on again. People love hearing these things because this is the real life of real estate, right?
It is. We're hopefully not everyday life, but yeah, it's part of our lives.
Great. Pauline is with Royal LePage in Smiths Falls, Ontario. You bought the first Royal LePage franchise
in Canada.
Yeah, 1993 or something, right?
Yeah, I was a baby.
You were, that's right. You were, I
was probably 10. you know, maybe 20. Yeah.
Great. So if anyone's looking for real estate in Smiths Falls, give Pauline a call. She's fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Pauline.
Thanks, Tony. Glad to be here.
Okay. Thanks for coming back. Let's jump into yet more stories and experiences from other realtors. We're moving over to Kamloops now, Kamloops, British Columbia, and I have with me Bobby Iio with RE/MAX. Hey, Bobby, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me.
Bobby is the team leader of Team 110 in Kamloops. I love that, by the way, because obviously 110 is the sort of anagram of your last name, because your spelling is IIO, right?
That's correct. Yes.
I love it. I love it. You got a story to tell. I enjoyed this one, so let's go. Go ahead.
So I'll set the scene. I've got this bank-owned property on a beautiful street called Green Acres, incidentally. I mean, how nice does that sound?
Yep.
So I've got a bank-owned property. It's the dead of winter, and I'm just doing an inspection of the property, as we have to do for these foreclosed properties. And so I head on out to the property. It's about dusk. So, you know, and I just did a sort of spontaneous head out to the property. So no one knew I was going out there, but you know, these things happen.
So you need to check them out because they're foreclosures. Nobody living there.
Exactly.
The bank wants to make sure that it's there. It's not going up in flames or anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And it's 2007. So you know, a lot has changed since then, but back then, you know, you didn't have a lot of the systems in place now, like property management companies that are designed to work on these properties in behind the scenes, alongside the real estate agents. So I'm doing all of that myself. So I go out and check on the property, and of course I get onto the property. I get in, I start looking around, and this was a doozy. Like, the pool had caved in. There was, you know, people had clearly left the property in very poor condition, and it wasn't one of the main financial institutions. It was kind of a one-off, so they're definitely less prepared for these types of listings. So I get into the property, and you know, I now it's almost dark, right? Especially inside the property, and I check turn on lights. There's no power, so I'm going, okay, well. You know,
and you said it's dark, right?
It's dark, and now it's pretty much dark. Yes. Okay. So almost no light. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just quickly go through the property, and of course, you know, you didn't have flashlights on your cell phone, and I thought, well, I'll just be 5 minutes, so I'll just whip in and out. And so I head downstairs to the basement. By the time I get down there, now it's almost completely dark. So
no
I
lights.
Get to the bottom, no lights at all. That's right. And the basement was pretty much unfinished. There was a little bit of drywall, but other than that, it was just, you know, concrete floors and framed walls, that sort of thing. So I get to the bottom of the stairs, and I you know, and I want to get in and out. It's cold, right? There's no heat in the property. I get to the bottom of the stairs, and I put my foot down, and I literally touched it, and it was a sheet of ice. I hit the floor.
Yeah.
I hit the ice. My feet completely go up towards the ceiling.
Okay.
And I land flat on my like the shoulder blades of my back, and I hit my head, and I get stars right away, and I'm laying there on this ice, and I'm dizzy, and I'm going, this is it for me. Like, no one knows I'm here. I'm a goner. Like, no, you know, they're not gonna find me until who knows, until the property's known again or whatever. Yeah. So
because this is the last thing that you expect in a basement is a skating rink, right?
Yes. So the power was out. Yeah. The furnace wasn't running. And so the pipes had froze and burst and flooded the basement and put a nice thin sheet of ice onto the entire basement. And so I'm laying there, and it, like I say, it was just completely frozen and just a perfect sheet of ice. And of course,
so what would the temperature outside have been at this time, roughly?
I mean, in Kamloops, I mean, it was probably about -15 or so.
Okay.
So, you know, it might have been my jacket that saved me, but I definitely hit my head, and I laid there for a couple of minutes on the ice, going,
Wow.
you know, shake those cobwebs out, Bobby, because if you go out right here, like, you
Yeah.
know,
God. You
pretty
know,
wild.
this is a reminder. I mean, you made a good point, which is things are different now because nowadays insurance companies are very concerned about empty houses because of exactly what happened. Like they don't want broken water pipes. They don't want further damage to the house. So nowadays there's more rigorous kind of checking process, right?
Well, and I would work with a property management company who is specifically designed
Yeah.
and educated on winterizing properties. And
Yeah.
the banks will keep the lights and power on now because they know it's an insurance nightmare if that's not the case. So there's definitely, like I said, many more checks and balances, and I work directly with those companies to
Yeah.
ensure that, you know, the bank-owned properties are secure and, yeah, lights and power on and winterized too. So, you know, there's no water running in
Yeah.
bank.
Shut the water off. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, that house, so whatever happened?
Yes.
Like it did it sell?
So, yes. So had it listed for back then $149,000. We had I can't exaggerate, and people think, oh yeah, you know, realtors make a ton of money, you don't do any work. So imagine that the bank lists the property, it goes on the market on Friday afternoon, and between Friday afternoon and Monday morning, I had I fielded 155 calls, emails, and texts from realtors and potential purchasers.
Yeah.
It ended up going to court for 155,000. So we had the bank-owned properties go to court. We had multiple bids before it went to court, and
Multiple
we had
bids in court. Yeah.
21 offers in court, and the property sold for $211,000, which back then we were all just, I mean,
Wow.
our minds were blown by, because you know, the lot was probably worth, you know, 50, 60 grand, and the pool was filled in. By the time the spring came, the whole basement was completely molded. There
Yeah.
was mushrooms growing off of the
So
walls
they've
in the
probably taken that
basement.
house down, right?
No, the people,
Fixed it.
the house was completely fixed up,
Oh.
and I think it sold for probably, you know, it sold over 300,000 a couple of years later.
Wow. Okay. So that's the interesting thing people need to know about is you're talking about the foreclosure process. There is a timeline there. So when the offer is accepted, then it goes to court. There's often weeks, if not months, between those points in time, and that's probably when you had to do your checks on the house, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially going into winter. You know, back then we didn't have electronic lock boxes, so it was like a key method,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, there was once in a while you get a realtor that shows the property unannounced,
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that the doors are locked,
Yeah.
and you know, the property's all. It's not like now with electronic lock
Yeah.
boxes when you know someone enters a property because
Yeah.
they have to put in their PIN and all that stuff.
It's recorded. So
Email.
the other thing too is with a foreclosure. I mean, as much as people think about the fact that they might be getting a good deal, the bank or the lender does not give any representations about the condition of the house. So I mean, there you
Absolutely.
are. You got a property that had a flood in the basement. Might be difficult for a regular consumer or seller to sell, but I mean, hey, it's a bank-owned property. You know, that's what you're selling as is where is, right?
That's a very good point, and the appraisers don't take that into consideration. As you know, Tony, I mean, the bank has a Schedule A, which is a document which more or less supersedes our entire contractual process,
Yep.
and yes, no representation. So the as-is component is often not considered by the consumer,
Yeah.
and you and I both know that we have to advise our clients, look, that
Disclosure.
as is part is very important to
Yeah,
consider.
for sure. Thanks for joining us, Bobby Iio. Bobby is in Kamloops. He's at RE/MAX in Kamloops. If anyone is thinking of going to Kamloops, or if anyone's selling in Kamloops, needs to come over to Victoria, give Bobby a call. Team 110, right?
That's it. Thanks
Great.
so much, Tony. I really appreciate you having me on and let me tell my story, and all the
Awesome.
best to you.
Great. We'll catch you. Thanks, Bobby.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show. I'm Tony Joe. Our show comes to you with the support of our show partners, Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group. JP Sellas, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance, operating as Island Savings Insurance. The Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs. And Shoreline Inspections with Reese Jacob and Monica Gass. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give us, the Whole Home Show team members, a call. We'd love to hear from you. Let's return for more realtor stories. Now we're over in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, visiting Toronto, Greater Toronto. Jennifer, thanks for joining us here in your home office. I'm in my home office as well too. We're hearing a whole bunch of great real estate stories. You had one that was kind of strange. I don't know if these things just happen to you.
Because someone else must have had some sort of murder weapon.
Well, let's find out. Let's find out. Tell us the story, Jennifer Patterson in Toronto.
So I sold a condo to a first-time home buyer, and it was in a great spot of Toronto called King West, which is sort of like west side of the city, very vibrant, lots of shops and restaurants, walk to anything. Super little spot. She was so excited. We did a final walkthrough, checked everything, all the appliances, all the chattels, where everything was perfect, right? It was great little.
Things are going great. Things are going great.
Yeah. Everything's going great. Unit closes. I'm checking on her all the time. Like, how is everything? Are you okay? How's life in King West? And then the following day, she's like, oh, everything's fine. Following day, she calls me. She's like, I am freaking out. And I was like, okay, no problem. Like sometimes.
I'm sorry. So she's moved in.
Yeah. So she moved. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah. So first day, everything's fine. She's so excited. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate all your help. This is wonderful. Next day, calls me like panic stricken. I am freaking out. I'm like, okay, what happened? You know, like everything is a problem solve, right?
Yeah.
What happened? How can I help you? She's like, I think that the person who used to own this unit is a murderer. Okay. So obviously not something I've heard before, but we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, what makes you think that? She said, well, I went to do my laundry, my first load of laundry, and I looked behind the washer and I saw something. So I reached back and I grabbed, and it's a machete and it's covered in blood.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so I've never heard of that before, because that's not something they teach you at the real estate college, right?
No,
so like,
no.
Okay, you know, are you sure it's like not a prop? Are you sure it's like a real machete? She's like, it's metal, and I swear it looks like blood. So I said, okay, so just put it down. So, you know, like I don't want her fingerprints on it just in case it's a real murder weapon. So I'm like, okay, so just put it down. I'm gonna call the other agent. I'm sure there's an explanation for this. She's like, okay, but like do something because I'm freaking out. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I quickly get on the phone to the selling agent. And I said, listen, here's what's happened. This is really strange. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but my client is like, she, you know, if from a 1 to 10, she's at like a 13.
Yeah.
So
and that you remember dealing with her before, was she a nervous person or?
She was totally fine. Everything was fine. So
this really set her off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on the phone, and then I keep hearing a ding, and I look, and I'm getting texts from her like, here's a picture of the machete. Here's a close up of the blood on the machete. It's like it's going on and on. And so he's like, okay, that's weird. I've never heard of that before. I said, no, me neither. That's why I'm calling you. So he said, well, let me call my guy. So I hang up with him, and I'm texting her, and I'm like, we'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. Don't worry. And he calls him back about 20 minutes later, and he said, oh, I talked to my seller, and he's really sheepish. And I said, I said to him, so we found what we think is maybe a weapon in the house. And, you know, he's like, I had to be sensitive because if he's a murderer, I don't want to be the next victim.
Oh, my goodness.
So I don't want to upset him.
Yeah.
And the guy said, oh, my gosh, was it like a machete covered in blood behind the washing machine?
Yes.
And the other agent's like, yes, it was a machete covered in blood hiding behind the washing machine. He's like, okay, so I know that looks really bad, but it was actually part of a Halloween costume. And when I put it away, I sort of stood it up in the back, like the washer dryer is
Stacker.
stacked in
Yeah.
the closet, right? And he said, I stood it in the corner because I don't need it. So I tried to put it like far into the back of the closet. And then I remember hearing it go clang, like on the floor behind.
Yeah.
And I remember making a mental note, like, I got to get that out before I move.
Yes,
Clearly
before somebody
forgot it.
finds it. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So no one finds my
Yeah.
machete. And so I'm laughing. The other agent's laughing. I'm like, of course I knew there was a part of me was terrified that there was something really wrong, but of course I knew there was a reasonable explanation. So I call my buyer and I'm like, hey, good news. We figured it out. Don't worry about it. And she's like, it's too late. And I'm like, what do you mean it's too late? She's like, I'm at the police station.
Oh no.
I'm waiting for you. So she told me she put plastic bags on her hands and grabbed it, so she didn't want her own fingerprints on it. She grabbed it, she wrapped it up, she put it in her car, drove to the nearest police station, which was like 5 minutes away. And she comes in the door and she's like, I was like, I don't want anyone freaking out. I have a weapon here. It's a machete. It's covered in blood. It's not mine. And yeah, and so the local police detachment was like, okay, ma'am, you know, like, please put it on the floor and step away, put your hands up.
Yeah.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
I said, well, just tell them it was part of a Halloween costume and it's fake blood. And she's like, no, they have it. Like they came and they wrapped it or whatever and like didn't touch it with their hands. And they actually took it away and took a report from her and they had to send it for testing.
Yeah.
So they, and of course they found out, they told her after, they're like, don't worry, it's not real blood. It was like cornstarch and corn syrup and food coloring, which is what they use in movies for fake blood. And I don't know what happened to the machete after that. It got destroyed, but it certainly did not wind up back in the hands of the seller of the unit.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let this be a lesson for anyone who is moving. Make sure you remove your Halloween weapons.
Yes. I was like, what kind of a murderer would be so sloppy that he would leave murder weapon with the blood still on it?
Oh my! And you know the thing is, of course, when you buy a house, you know the name of the seller, the person you bought it from. So she's probably at the police station going, "Bob Smith, he's a murderer," or
Google
whatever.
Him. Google him.
Oh my goodness!
Find out what else he's done.
Oh, hey, I hope she's okay, because you know sometimes people get a little freaked out about that, and it changes their whole living experience.
Well, this was so long ago. Actually, I actually already sold that unit. So she lived there for a few years. I sold that unit and helped her buy another house and no murder weapons.
Okay.
And we got her
when you sold that unit, did you disclose that there was a murder weapon?
No, because the police had it at that time. It's probably been destroyed.
So then you have to attach the police report, right?
Right.
Yeah,
or it's in an evidence locker somewhere.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Jennifer Patterson is with RE/MAX in Toronto in the GTA. Wow. That's a good one. I love it.
I can't wait to hear these. I love these stories because I figure if something weird happens to me, it happens to everybody.
I'm pretty sure it's just you. Thanks for coming, Jennifer. All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. I'm Tony Joe, and this is The Whole Home Show. Today, I'm taking you on a cross-country tour to hear real-life stories from agents. Let's get right back to it. So we're still in British Columbia here. We're moving towards Oliver and Penticton, my friend Milan at RE/MAX. Now, if you're watching this video, because we are recording videos here on The Whole Home Show, you'll see his fancy RE/MAX bow tie, which is something that I don't have yet. I need one of those, Milan.
I know. I was like, I'm like, maybe my cousin should just start a little RE/MAX bow tie business.
Exactly.
Hand stitched, like it's not a print on there, everybody.
I wish that if you're listening.
My cousin is not a woman. My cousin is a man. It's
Nice.
a man hand stitching bow ties.
Oh, that's a skill. That's a skill. And to our listeners who are just listening to the radio show, it's too bad you can't see this because it is really something. I love it. Milan, I love it. I love it. Thanks for joining us. Now, you've got a bit of a story. Tell us, let's start from the beginning.
Okay. Okay, I would just like to start by saying thank you for having me on, Tony.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've been a wonderful mentor and friend over the last few years. Everybody, you know, hats off to Tony Joe.
Oh.
I'd like to just give a shout out to Bobby Iio, who I met last year in Banff and became really close brothers with. And, you know, I just want to start with some gratitude.
Hey, actually, Milan, thanks for bringing that up, because you know what? It's a tight community. This is the nice thing about the real estate community. Those of us that actually know a lot of agents across the country, it's like a family, right?
It is.
Yeah. And then it's nice that we know people that, like, if I have someone moving to Smiths Falls, I'm going to call Pauline. If I have someone going to Peterborough, I'm going to call Christine. You know, you are in Oliver, Penticton, right? It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
To everybody out there, I call myself on Facebook, Milan South Okanagan Starcic.
Yep.
I service from Summerland, Penticton, Okanagan Falls, Oliver, Soyuz, and as well Kermis and Costin. Just
God's
so
country. God's country.
God's country as well, yes. Well, you know.
All right.
And so yeah, I have a little story here. Mine isn't funny, but it is.
Well, but this is real life. Hey, you know what we've been trying to do is everyone's been watching this HGTV stuff about real estate.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it might be entertainment, but that's not really real estate, right?
Yeah. Well, this was not a 24 hours that I thought I was getting into. Let me tell you, you know, this old episode.
Okay.
So my clients were out from Tony's area in Victoria. They were moving out. It was before I knew Tony, so I couldn't have got him a referral.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, we'd been looking for a place for 8 months, and the husband worked in Alberta and the wife was living in Victoria. He was back visiting her every time he would finish his shifts, you know, go back home for 10 days. And we had gone out 3 times over this 8 months in the breaks that he could come out and that they didn't have something pertinent to do at home.
Yeah.
So basically I knew exactly what they wanted by then. I was taking a couple coachings at the time, and that really sort of, I'm very good with my buyers. You know, most people take 7 trips to find something for their buyers. I'm averaging like 3.2.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah, like I listen to people. I ask them about the house. I ask them what their needs are. I have the man's needs and the woman's needs. And, you know, and I tell them, well, you're going to have an overlap. Have all 8 perfect needs.
Yeah.
You know, we could, you know, live on.
Sometimes our job is counseling.
Yeah, sometimes it is, you know, and I asked them too, what out of those 8 are your essential, right?
Yeah.
And this home had it all. It was a nice custom built rural home. It was, it had been owned and built by a German guy as part of this Bearland Strata Co-op outside of Penticton. When this house became available, it was early 2017. The market was hot like fire outside of Penticton. I called up Maria and said, Maria, I have your perfect home.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you need to come today. Yeah. And because she wasn't working at this time, Maria immediately jumped on a plane from Victoria, where she was out there by 1. Yeah. By 3:30.
So so she would fly to Kelowna, right?
She flew actually to Penticton.
Okay.
She did a Victoria, Vancouver, Penticton.
Got it.
And because it would have got her there just during business hours and to be able to get home that day.
Yeah.
Like she was going to come and go home.
Yeah.
So we went out, we saw the house. She was as in love with it as I knew she would be. And her husband Dan was working, and she had power of attorney for Dan to sign for the contract. And we had an accepted offer by 3:30. Her flight was to leave at 5:30 p.m.
So this is the way things should go. So up to now, everything's going kind of perfect.
Like this is like, she was crying when she went in the home. It was like, it was her wow home moment. Okay. I felt the absolute bliss of servitude. Okay. I'm thinking this is the greatest day ever. Yeah. It was my epiphany day in my life.
Okay. But then something happened.
And then, so in the Okanagan Valley, the Penticton Airport doesn't have the same like radar as the Kelowna. So if it's too overcast, they actually have to cancel flights. Okay. Whereas Kelowna has additional guidance and can go beyond and say maybe have 75% less cancellations in the winter.
Okay.
So we go from this accepted offer to having a meal. I take her to the airport and her flight's canceled.
Okay.
And so now Maria's started worrying. And I'm like, okay, well, I said, listen, Maria, I said, you know, they'll get you on a flight tomorrow. I said, you'll have to pay for a hotel tonight.
Yep.
I said, but I'll drive you to the hotel and I'll come and pick you up and take you to the airport in the morning.
Yeah.
And so there was a 6:30 flight out the next day. And, you know, we're driving from the airport to her hotel. She's like, you know, I have to tell you something, Milan. I had a stroke before.
Oh.
And I didn't bring my medication. And I took my medication at 11:30 today. And I have to take it again within 24 hours.
Oh.
And I'm like, and she says, and the problem is really that lies in this is that a lot of stress can trigger another stroke in me.
Oh,
and by now I'm like, and you didn't think to bring the medication just in case, or like you didn't think to tell me. I'm like, do you want me to take you to the hospital and get another prescription for this medication? And for whatever reason, she refused on that. And I took her actually, we did a little bit of shopping, so she had some amenities for the night, and I dropped her off. And by now, whatever, say it's like 7 at night, and all of a sudden, my phone rings at 4 a.m.
Uh-oh.
And she's like, Milan, this is Maria, and I'm freaking out. My flight is canceled. There's going to be no flights out of Penticton this morning. And I'm like jumping out of bed, and I've got the phone on one ear, and I'm getting dressed. I'm like, okay, Maria. I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm like, let's breathe for a second.
Yeah.
I'm like, because right now I'm getting dressed, which means that I will be at your hotel in 25 minutes, and I will drive you up to Kelowna, and we're going to be fine here. There'll be a flight out of Kelowna. You call Air Canada, you get them to emergency book you on one of these flights, and it'll all be okay. I said, Maria, you know what? I'm like, you have my whole day to help you out here. I'm like, I'm okay with this. And so she's like, okay. And so by the time I get to her hotel, it's shortly after 5. She's ready. She's waiting outside in the snow. And so we're driving up, and we get to just past Peachland, where it comes over past that, like just before that mill to West Bank, where it's like they carved the highway through the cliff.
Yes. I know exactly.
We get just past that exit onto the 97C, where there's no more exits. Yeah. And it's dead stop traffic. Okay. And it turns out that a tractor trailer carrying telephone poles had hit the snow and the ice at the top of the hill, knocked out 3 poles, went sideways, and was blocking both sides of the highway with all the poles, the truck, the down power wires. And so we sit in the car, and we sit there for about 2 hours maybe. And, you know, and they're like, stay in the car. There's people walking down going, stay in the car. Finally, after 2 hours, like, she's like quivering with stress. And I'm just like, okay, Maria, you wait here. And I walk to the front, and, you know, there's like a fireman standing, and the power line's down and the divider. And I said, listen, I said, you know, you're here for safety, right? And to save lives. I said, that's what you're here for, right? I said, my client is in my car, and if she doesn't get through this, she's going to have another stroke, and you're going to have, like, dropped the ball on saving lives right now. Okay. I'm like, she needs your help. And so at this point where I'm at, I can see the next exit. Yeah. And I just said, listen, I need for you to get her over this concrete barrier and to that exit so she can catch a cab and get to her medication in time, not to stroke out. Yeah. And he's like, hold on, you wait here. And he makes me wait about 5 minutes. And then he comes back, and he's like, okay, bring her up. But the quintessential moment of all this, like, if I had a camera at any one moment in my real estate career, was me lifting Maria over my head, over the concrete, to these 2 receiving firemen.
Oh my goodness.
And she made it home. She made it home 15 minutes before her 24 hours due for her medication.
What?
Yeah. And so, and actually, and oddly enough, listen to this. So this is the power of customer loyalty when you save their life, everybody. Okay. But less than a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, Maria calls me up. She says, you know, I'm really lonely with Dan being up in Alberta, and I want to go back to my grandkids in Victoria, which her sister's a real estate agent. Otherwise, you would have the referral.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's all good.
But anyway, yeah, I'm selling their house here now after that.
Wow. Okay. So you know what? This is an example of, and you are an excellent example, Milan. I know this about you. This is an example of people that go past above and beyond the call of duty. And
Mm.
it's funny because as much as you described, finding the right house and all that kind of stuff, none of this had to do with the fact that you made a sale. This was
No.
you developing the relationship, and somebody was in need and you helped them. And kudos to you, man. This is just a great example of us, the real estate industry. We're not what you see on HGTV and all
Not
that
all
stuff.
greedy scumbags that are like out to
No.
get something from someone. And I would just like to say as an end thing to that story is that that very day with her changed my life forever on the direction of me and servitude for others.
Amazing.
And I feel like every point before that in my life,
Yeah.
I was more experiencing joy for benefits to me.
Yeah.
And what that day taught me was the joy of experiencing or when other people experience the benefits of your actions.
Fantastic. I love it, Milan. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. Hey, it turned out.
Can I say one last thing? Can I plug one thing, Tony, and you can edit it off if it doesn't suit
Okay.
your thing? Okay. So my mom has lung cancer, and we're going to start to try to do this thing called Families Together for Families Together. Later in September, the date will be announced here by early June. It's going to be a 10-kilometer thing, and it's not all in one place. People can do it anywhere. We're going to try to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network.
Beautiful.
You can walk, you can bike, you can run, but we're trying to get it as a multi-generational thing.
Mhm.
And so like my mom will be doing it. My daughter's a bit lazy on the running, so she'll be riding a bike.
Yeah.
So we'll have 3 generations of our family. And I'm going to sort of set up a page for people to join, and then, their sponsors can sort of go towards this. So it'll be families kind of across the world together, raising money for the Children's Miracle Network, which helps keep families together.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. When you get that all set up, you let me know. We're going to
will.
promote that on this side here.
I would love that. Thank you, Tony.
Love it. Thank you again, Milan. Wow. Real estate stories. That one, when I first heard about it, was like, yeah, that sounds kind of interesting, but it's ended up being a heartwarming kind of story. And
Yes, I almost kind of tear up thinking about it,
Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you, Tony, for being a brother forever, and thank you for having me on.
You bet. Thanks again for joining us today. Hope you've enjoyed these stories and have had some good chuckles. I'll be here for you this time next week.